Hey guys, Simon here, and welcome to this very special Google Hangout and also live on Periscope at the moment, where I have got with me a good friend of mine, here, Wesley, I met Wesley in San Diego a couple of years back now. I'm looking excited to be talking about how we met and the stuff that's going on today. Sorry, back then. Guys, this is not the normal kind of hangout interview that I do. We're normally talking business strategy, and we're going to touch it on a little bit of that today. But this is really something which I'm super passionate about. Something which is deep in my heart, deep in Wesley's heart, because this hangout is literally going to save children's lives. Myself and Wesley met a couple of years back in San Diego. We were at a seminar together. I went through a personal intervention on change. We can have a little bit of a chat around that. And, what happened after that event actually has changed Wesley's life, but has also changed many kids' lives who have been literally on the brink of taking their own lives. And Wesley, this is such a critical subject. And before I talk about, my own personal story and stuff, why don't we wind back to what really happened in San Diego when we were at that event, so people can really understand the real tipping point. But before that, a little bit into your background and how this kind of, before this started, you up until that point in San Diego, what were you doing? You're kind of running your business. A lot has changed for you.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, to say the least. And as you mentioned, you and I we crossed paths at an event in San Diego, and I was in about the end of a 4.5 year journey of kind of trying to figure out what I thought was figuring out life, but in reality it was really figuring out myself and my purpose and communicating with my core identity. And my backstory is pretty crazy. As far as the entrepreneurial side, I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 8. I've been on covers of magazines. I've won App of the Year with Apple. I've consulted Microsoft and Franklin Covey and Jana King and Costco and been a very successful entrepreneur. And so there was a point in my life when I hit about, probably about 27, when I was just kind of like, this can't be it. I was sitting on a beach. I had a house on the top of the mountain. I had 9 cars. I had a beautiful girlfriend. All these things were happening, and I just thought, this can't be it. Like, this can't be the pinnacle. There seems like there needs to be more than this. And so that's when I started this journey. And I guess I was a little bit older, but this is when I started this journey of just kind of figuring out what's really the purpose of life, and more importantly for me on a personal level, it was, how am I going to be my authentic self? Because here I was, this very successful entrepreneur, but if we rewind back, in my life from the moment I was actually in the womb, and then all the way up until probably when I was 25, I was going through a lot of turmoil in my life. My father left when I was 1 year old. My mother abandoned me at a hospital when I was 6.5. I was abused from the age of 1 until 17 in every way possible: physical, emotional, sexual, and even spiritual abuse. So I was pretending that part of my life didn't exist, and I was using entrepreneurialism to kind of mask that and hide who I was and who I could be. I was really focused more on, let me be the successful entrepreneur that everybody loves, and let's not worry about the fact that my dad left me, before I was out of diapers. Let's not worry about the fact that my mom gave up on me. Let's not talk about the people that, thought I was worthless, so abuse was okay for them to do to me. Let's not talk about any of that. Let's just talk about me being really rich and being a kick-ass business guy and, with hot girlfriends. Let's talk about that. And I lived in that life for a long time. And then, like I said, and I always tell this to people I work with, life will catch up to you. So whether you run, a 2-minute mile or you run a 15-minute mile, it doesn't matter. Life will catch up to you. And life caught up to me. And that's when I started the journey. And then, you were at the tail end of that journey of me kind of figuring out, like, this isn't what I want. This isn't who I want to be. I want to be able to be me. I want to be okay with being me. And I want to be proof that it's okay to be me. And so that's kind of the synopsis backstory of where, getting to that point where we met.
So we're in San Diego, and, Michael Burnoff was there. We were in a kind of room doing interventions, and all this stuff was happening. Where was your headspace at that time before you kind of left and the sequence of events happened?
You know, it was interesting because I felt like there was a balance between business and development. I thought that, you know, I felt that it was okay to be, you know, to care about your mind and your body and your spirit, and also be, you know, in business. And my role models and the people that I spend a lot of time with didn't see it that way. It was like, you're business and that's what you do, or you're a hippie. There's no kind of in between. And so, when I met Michael Burnoff, you know, I kind of sat there and I thought, wow, this guy, you know, consults Ernst and Young and he does all these amazing things. And here he is, you know, basically like calling people out on their shit, like right there on in a circle. And just, you know, I remember one, I don't know if you were in the room, the one lady that he basically called out and called her a compulsive liar. And, you know, that she was just lying to everybody. And I was just like, wow, you know, and then 5 minutes later, he's giving her business advice on how to build her business. And I was in this weird funk where I'm hanging out with guys like Bill Gates and working at Microsoft and doing things there. And then, you know, I'm now in this personal development space, and they're two totally polar opposite worlds. So Michael Burnoff was kind of put in my path to show me that, you know what, you can have both. Like, it's okay. You know, you don't have to be a guy that gets on stage and dance and sing and tell everybody that, you know, just believe in yourself, as much as you don't have to just be the asshole who, you know, cuts everybody out and makes as much money as possible. You can live in this world of taking care of your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul, and also taking care of your bank account. It's very possible. And that was new for me. And some people it's not new and it's, you know, whatever. But for me, being an entrepreneur for 25 plus years, that was really new for me.
Got it. And then the event ended and something happened, didn't it? We were just chatting about this the other week, and then suddenly everything gets turned on its head just by one thing happening. And this is, you know, a lesson in itself, isn't it?
It is, and it's also a lesson in putting yourself in places. You know, I have this thing called the 10 Secrets to Success, which I'm sure everybody has something like it. But one of my secrets is just saying yes. You know, I mean, just being at that event was something that I never intended on doing. Nick, it was a Nick Unsworth event. Nick called me. He was like, "I'm having this event. You should come." And I'm like, you know, I'd rather not. I don't really want to. But I said yes, and you know, it was the greatest decision I made up to this point. So what happened is that I was so enamored by Michael that I thought, you know what, I need to get some one-on-one time with him. I need to share with him a little bit about my story and what I want to do. So I took him to the airport. I volunteered to take him to the airport and when he was leaving, which was Sunday night. So I dropped him off we had a great conversation. He gave me some great advice. He was very, very polite guy. We get to the airport, I drop him off, and I'm on my way home, traveling down the interstate in San Diego. And literally, it was like this weird, crazy experience. I'm just driving, and I'm thinking about all the last couple of years, these last 3 days, meeting people like you, and just kind of seeing like I wasn't alone in this kind of identity struggle, and just kind of figuring stuff out. And I want to make it very clear. I was very successful, helped a lot of people, did a lot of different things, but it was just me wanting to go to another level, to a level that I knew was possible, but everyone was telling me wasn't necessary. You know, I was hearing lines like, "Wes, just stay, you know, be wealthy, and then you can save the world," or "Wes, just, you know, you're already great, you know, just focus on that." And that was great advice, but I knew there was something more. There was something bigger I could do. So driving down the freeway, and I'm thinking about all this stuff, and literally, like, in front of me, there is just this huge crowd of people, like thousands of people standing on the freeway, which sounds crazy, but this is what I was seeing. And they were all wearing a t-shirt that said, "I am human." It was a black t-shirt. It was night, and all their t-shirts were glowing. And it was this really weird kind of moment where I saw this and I thought, that's really weird. And it wasn't like, you know, sometimes you'll have thoughts or whatever. This was like just this vivid, you know, impression on my mind. And then it started morphing into those people, you know, being happy and like cheering and just being super exuberated about life. And you know, then I drove through that crowd and they just kind of disappeared. And I got home that night and I told my fiance, I said, "Honey, I don't know what this is, but I got to put this down on paper." And so I sat down that night and I designed the t-shirt that I saw. I designed an entire brand around it. I bought a bunch of URLs. that had words human in it. I bought, humancorner.com. I don't remember all the URLs I bought, but one URL I bought was ahumanproject.com. And I bought that, and I was looking at it, and I started designing it as a logo, and designed this really cool logo, and even made a mistake with the U in the word human, and I was trying to correct it. So as a designer, you go and, highlight it a different color so you can see all the lines, whatever. I highlighted it like a red or something. And all of a sudden I zoomed out and I saw this, a U project. And I was like, holy crap, this is pretty cool. So I packaged it all together. I got on one of those quick make t-shirt websites, and I ordered 100 t-shirts with the logo and the branding on it. And then went to bed at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and this was on January 8th, I believe. T-shirts arrived like on the 14th or something of January. And that was it. I didn't think about it for a few months after that, but it was just a really weird experience that happened. And then there's, it continues on from there. But that's kind of that was a tipping point in a really weird way, which didn't make sense at all in the moment, but made epic sense about 2 months later.
So when did it start to change from the point of, I'm running these businesses, I've been hyper successful, but this has happened, I've decided to launch this brand, to, oh my God, I've got to drop everything, I've got to help these kids? Like, what was that moment of that turning point?
So during this, so here we are in, mid-January, and I started volunteering a lot of my time, and I've been doing it for about 7 years. Volunteering my weekends to kids and speaking in prisons and boys' homes and foster youth facilities and troubled youth facilities, things like this. And I started doing more of that in San Diego, and one event would lead to another event. People would hear me speak, and then they'd have me, they'd want me to come speak here or there or whatever. And I spoke at one particular event on a beach in San Diego in front of about 60, 70 kids. And there was an up-and-coming superstar in the audience. He just got signed by Jason Mraz. He's kind of like, he will be probably the next to John Mayer, Jason Mraz kind of guy. And he was in the audience, and his father was in the audience, and they are partnered with a nonprofit that speaks in schools about drug use. And so they came to me and said, we love your story. They gave me some really powerful compliments on my speaking, and they said, we would love to have you partner with us and speak at some of these schools. And I thought, all right, cool. So the first speaking engagement rolled around on April 8th of 2014. And I went there terrified out of my mind. I'd never spoken to public school. I'm not a very politically correct dude. I've never believed in, sugarcoating stuff or dancing around issues. I'm kind of like, let's hit it. If I was in business and, you came to me and said you didn't have profitability, I would look at every aspect of your business. And if that meant you had to fire your sister, you fired your sister. That was business to me. And it was kind of life to me. I was, because of my past, I don't like to just dance around shit. So I was nervous because in public school, I have a story about God, and I have a story about, the abuse and the drugs and the molestation and all these things. And I don't sugarcoat any of that when I speak. So I was terrified to speak in this public school. On top of that, here's this soon to be superstar and this big charity and great opportunity for me. So I was full of fear, all self-puffiness, in the sense of like, if I do this, this will happen to me. And I get up on stage, and I've spoken a lot. I've spoken to audiences as small as 10 people and as large as 10,000 people. So it's not the fear of speaking. It was more the fear of, if I use the wrong language, or if I talk about God, or if I talk about this, is somebody going to sue me? Is some parent going to sue me? And before I went to the school, I asked, like any speaker does, tell me about the audience. And the principal told me about the abuse and the bullying that they were having at the school. Kids beating each other's faces in with those Razor scooters. Kids lighting other kids on fire. I think they had 70, I got to go back in my notes and I could be wrong on this, but I believe it was 73 suicide attempts in that semester, and 7 of them, I think, or something ridiculous like that, were successful. So they'd had just this horrible experience, and they were 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So in the United States, that's basically 11 to 14-year-olds. And I just was like, this is crazy. So I get up on this stage and I'm speaking, and the first and foremost, the room should have only fit about 200 kids. But the principal had this idea, after he read my bio and saw some of my videos, he said, do you mind if I make this, mandatory for our students? And I said, that's between you and the fire marshal, kind of hoping that, 200 kids is enough. Kids are the hardest audience to speak to. And he brought in almost the entire student body. There were 700 kids in a room that could only fit 200. So the fire marshal wasn't happy, and neither was I, because kids were sitting on each other's laps. There wasn't an aisle away. It was nuts. And I get up and start speaking, and these kids just start heckling me. They just, oh, you cracker, you white guy, what do you know? Oh, you poor thing. Oh, just like all these things, because I was really being kind of soft about my story. And I am a religious guy, and I basically, said a little prayer, and I said, God, look, we got two options here. Either one, you help me out, because this is not working, or number two, you got to cut the power so I can get the hell out of here, because this is not going well. And in that moment, I had this overwhelming feeling, this inspiration of, it's not about you, it's about them. And that, in the particular mind space I was in, it was that simplicity that just wrecked me. And it made me realize, like, you know what? Everything, all my fears are all selfish. They're all, worrying about me, my feelings, what's gonna happen to me, what are people gonna think of me? And the real reason that I was standing on that stage was to help them, and to give them something. So I totally changed everything. I dropped my, new canned public speech thing or public school speech that I was going to give. And I went into my raw, real, authentic self. And for 18 minutes, you could hear a pin drop in that auditorium. And after I got done speaking, I was ready to leave. And then principal came to me and said, hey, would you stick around? And he parted the curtain from backstage. And there was just this huge line of youth who were wanting to talk to me. And I ended up spending about 4.5, 5 hours afterwards just talking to youth, one after another. And I mean, I could tell you 5 hours of stories of kids who were telling me about their abuse, their cousins, their fathers, their stepfathers, whatever it may be, just completely wrecking their lives. I had a girl that, if you know anything about boxing, after you box for a while, doesn't matter how intelligent you are, there's just kind of there's a boxer talk, and they talk a little slower. Their actions are a little slower. I mean, they've been punched in the head too many times, kind of a thing. And there was a little girl who was 12 years old who I literally, it wasn't that she was handicapped. It wasn't that I thought she had a disability. It literally was like I was talking to a kid who'd been boxing their entire life, or a grown man. And I've hung out with a lot of boxers. That's why I use that analogy. But she was 12, and it hadn't been boxing. It had been her biological father, and her side of her face was crushed in permanently. A bunch of different things, and she told me a ton of different stories. And what was interesting, though, is that in my speech, I talked about finding things that ignite you, finding things that bring your soul alive. And I talked about music for me, and writing, and sports, and all these things. And I challenged the kids to find those passions, to find those things that kept them alive, that kept them feeling on fire. And so this little girl was telling me about her passion and how she carried it with her everywhere she went. And it was a musical instrument. And I was like, you got a mandolin like shoved in your backpack? Like what musical instrument could you carry around everywhere? And she was, like I said, very awkward speaking, was having a hard time. And she reached into her back pocket and she pulled out a harmonica. And in that moment, she asked if she could play a song for me. And I was like, absolutely. And in that moment, as she played that song, it was like, we all see transformations if you're in the space. And I mean, you see this all the time with people, and they finally have that aha moment, or they finally get that one thing that changes them. As she was playing that harmonica, she completely morphed into another human being. I mean, it was just this transformation of confidence, of energy, of power. The second she stopped playing that harmonica, put it back in her pocket, she just, sunk back down into her state. And that was in a moment right there where I knew the power of just allowing yourself to dream, allowing yourself to have these passions, these gifts explored. So I challenged her to never put down her harmonica and to always play it. And it was a very powerful moment. So I have, like I said, 4 hours of stories like that. And that day, changed my life forever. That is when I went home, told my fiance, I said, if not now, you know, if I'm not going to change the world, quote unquote, now, if we're not going to tell the story now, if we're not going to build something that's going to help these kids now, then when the hell am I going to do it? So if not now, then when? When I'm another $1 million richer, when I'm $10 million richer, when I'm, you know, this many houses, like when is it appropriate for me personally to do it? And my answer on July 8th at 9:30 at night was, it's now. And I started making phone calls to my existing clients, telling them that all the contracts that, you know, I had signed would be the last, being that this was in April. My last contract was up in August. I didn't sleep for 3 days, and, you know, we built what is now a human project. So long story, but I gives you the background.
Got it. How important do you think it is? I mean, being a business owner yourself and seeing so many business owners run a business, be stressed month by month by, you know, not being able to pay the bills and do all this stuff. How critical do you think it is? I mean, you may be possibly in a different position because you had, you know, maybe the financial backing to be able to do it. Tell me if I'm wrong, a little bit more than most. But how important it is for people to have that purpose, have something which underlying they're going for beyond just making money. Because I discussed with you the recent shift I had around money, and you knew what I was like back in San Diego back then. I'm very different from where I was now, but there are so many people in that place and I think it's okay to want to earn money, but when you've got a purpose, when you've got a drive, when you've got something else which you're making it an absolute must, then it pulls you faster, doesn't it?
It does. And, you know, you're on point, you're on passion, you have more endurance, you're on, you know, still something from John Lee Dumas, like you're on fire. I mean, there's just so much more about it. And so I think what's interesting, I just had this call yesterday. I was just working with a guy yesterday and coaching him through some things in his life. And he was talking about how he's got this passion and how he wants to share his story and he wants to get out there and that's what he really wants to do. But, and then he uses the but word, which I hate. I eliminate a lot of words in my life. One is but, the other is just, and another one is if. I'm
writing these down. But.
Yeah. So just, but, and if. You get rid of those in your life, and everything will change. But the whole concept is that, you know, he's saying, you know, I want to do all that, but I got to make money and I got to, you know, pay the power bills. And if I could just, you know, do what I want to do, then I would be happy. You know, if I could do that, I would be happy. You know, those are some examples of how those words affect your mind and your brain. And so I said, look, you're programming yourself, A, to never be happy, and B, you're programming yourself to a futuristic time that you have no plan of execution. You have no plan of getting there, except for the fact that when and if you make money over here, then you'll do what you love to do over here. And I said, you got to combine those two. I mean, we live in the most advanced state of human history. We have the most opportunity than we've ever had before. We have all of these different things. There are just so many things that are going on and that are happening that there's no room for excuses. Yeah, I've started a nonprofit and you know, I've shifted my life to kids, but by no means do I want to not have profit. By no means do I not want my wife to have nice things and be comfortable, my children to have nice things and be comfortable. People have this like disgust with money. It's either get more of it and that's what's going to make me happy, or stay away from it because it's evil and happiness isn't in money. All of that's bullshit. Like, money is a vehicle. Money is just a utility to do the things that you want to be able to do. And so if you want to, you know, save children's lives, or you want to help dolphins, or you want to do, I don't care, whatever you want to do to be an impact in the world, money is going to make that much more effective. And so, but it's a matter of figuring out how to combine it, which is kind of where you've been playing, and it's been working. I mean, you went from where you were in San Diego, you know, less than 2 years ago, to now where you are, which has been such a dramatic shift, you know, financially, emotionally, spiritually, I mean, the whole 9 yards. And I would even challenge, I don't know, because I don't know everything about your bank account, but I would even challenge you've made more money since figuring out that shift than before, you know, and all those things. So in challenging everyone is that don't look at me or any other person, Adam Braun or Frank from Make-A-Wish Foundation or any other nonprofit that you know about. don't look at them and say, oh, well, they could do it because, you know, because there's been many days, and I've told you this, there's been many months. The first months, yeah, it was easier because we had some money in the bank, but I was also living for 4 years trying to find this purpose. So we've been living on savings for 4 years. So we didn't have a tremendous amount, but there's been many months when it has been, all right, it's the 30th. We need to pay some bills tomorrow. Not sure if we can pay all the bills tomorrow. And then some miraculous thing happens on the 30th at 11 o'clock at night. And, you know, and it works. But it's because we're on purpose, we're on point. And I've been told this by guys like LL Cool J. I've been told this by guys like Avery Wilson. I've been told this by, you know, guys like Prince E. These are celebrities here in the States that they could feel my passion. They could feel the energy. And so they want to get on board. They want to participate. They want to do that. You and I having a conversation a week ago, we know each other a little bit, but here we are talking where you can feel my passion, my purpose. I can feel your passion, your purpose, your story. They align. Now we're doing this interview. We're going to be doing a shit ton more stuff of making a change for these kids. And it's because I'm working in that line. So if I challenge any entrepreneur who's out there who's saying, I'll do what I really love if or when, but right now I just need to do this work. I would challenge you to get rid of that analogy and figure out how to combine the two and live a life that's on point. And then all of a sudden, all your energy, and I'm not talking energy, spiritual, I'm talking about just exertion, is going to one thing. And it's going for one purpose and one goal. And now you're compounding and just throwing so much more at it. And then when the brick wall is in front of you, you've got all this energy, all this passion, all this purpose. You're just going to plow through that damn wall. And it's going to be like, you know what? I made this happen, and I'm going to keep going. And that has been, the single secret to being able to do what we're doing now, with a ton of naysayers, with a ton of challenges, with a ton of different things, is that every day I get a reminder of my passion. At 9:53 today, so just before you and I got on this call, I got an email from a girl who I met 2 years ago, who was in a horrible situation. She was being abused, she was being molested, she was being beaten, she was going through all kinds of stuff in her life. And I gave her some techniques and some skills and pointed her in some directions, empowered her. And she just emailed me, and she was in the foster care system, and she wanted to give up. She wanted to kill herself. She just emailed me literally at 9:53 this morning. I'll be posting it on my Facebook wall after you and I get off. And she told me of her journey over the last 2 years, and now how her journey is ending is that she is finally being adopted by a family, a great family. Her life is completely turned around. She's happier than she's ever been. She's enjoying. She's found a passion in photography. She's moving forward in her life, and she emailed me just to thank me for giving her the courage and the advice to carry forward and move forward in life. And again, that's awesome, but it's all on her. That was her decision, her choice. That'll fuel me for the next 6 months.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's like with what I do, and we're, everyone watching, and a lot of the guys, are running, personal training businesses or whatever, or coaching, when we get that kind of, you've changed my life, that's what really drives us forward a lot of the time. Something which you touched on at the start of the conversation was when you were talking in front of the kids and you were sharing your personal raw story. What I find a lot of the times with a lot of trainers is they've gone into the industry to gain their own confidence. And so they're very confident on the gym floor and they're very confident with their bodies, but they're lacking in confidence in a lot of other things when it comes to really getting themselves out there from the business perspective. How important do you think it is to really be willing to share your own personal, the shit that's really happened to you in order to really change others? Because people just like you understand psychology, a lot more than most people. And when people have had shit happen to them and they lock it in their body, it causes disease, doesn't it? So people just getting it out there and talking about the things that they're most ashamed of is the best therapy. It's going to inspire people, and it's going to have a bang-on effect through multiple generations, and it's a catalyst to change.
It is, and you hit it right on. There's studies about talking about back problems, shoulder pains, all kinds of stuff. And I actually, when I meet somebody, I'll ask them a couple of questions about their health. Do you have, and chronic pain, I mean, look, having a headache for one day doesn't mean a lot, but chronic pain. For example, if somebody has chronic shoulder pain, that's a good saying that they feel as if they have to hold the world up, their world, and that nobody's appreciating them, or that they, they have the weight of the world on them. If somebody has lower back pain, it usually means that they're stressed and they're not expressing their emotions. So maybe it's a parent who's getting walked on by children, or it's a woman whose husband isn't listening to her. And the knee pains, it means that you're always serving people and people aren't acknowledging your service. There's all these different things that the body stores these pain points and stores these things, and then it comes out in these chronic pains. And there's been a ton of research. This isn't just me, but I will, testify to it that it's 9 times out of 10 works.
Well, I'm going to take off this mic a sec because there is a book that I have. I don't know if you've read it, which I'm going to get back here, and it's called. This is where I can't find it. It's a black book. I like to do this live because it's interesting. I can't find that. It's called The Great Pain Deception.
Yeah.
I had it like literally here, but how annoying is that?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Great. Is it called The Great Pain Deception?
I believe so. And it's all about, where pain is driven from and all this stuff. So, so exactly to your point that, and then your question about the power of story, the power of that. As you said, it creates relatability first and foremost, but just being totally selfish, just talking about, a person as an individual. We live in a filtered world, and especially the fitness community. I'm actually doing a podcast in a couple of weeks with Ben Greenfield, talking about how fitness activity and exercise can actually cause depression. It can also cure depression, but it can actually cause depression and self-esteem issues. And a lot of it is because of the filtered world that we live in. To be a fitness coach, you got to have a certain look, right? You got to have the certain arm, dimension. You got to have the certain, 6 packs, the certain forms, a certain ass, the certain legs, all these different things. It creates so much pressure on you consciously and subconsciously. And then on top of that, we live in this filtered world. Jody, my fiance, just went to dinner a little while ago with somebody who does fashion blogging and things. And they Photoshop every single thing that they put on their Instagram account, which is just, I don't agree with that. I think that's silly, but it's the world that we live in. So subconsciously what that's doing is putting this pressure, and it's really translating to shame, because as an individual, and I talk about this in my H cubed, my superhuman life formula, and the first step in breaking out of this stuff is honesty. Not honesty like, hey, Tim, I'm an alcoholic, but honesty to yourself. When you take a picture, you take a selfie, you do something, you whatever, where every wrinkle is, where every zit is, where every imperfection is. Use the app to, blemish it, fix it, do whatever, change the colors, add this, do that, whatever. But you as an individual know the reality of what, of who and what you look like. So when you post that photo out there that's not you, you're literally killing your brain. You are literally killing the chemicals in your brain. You are literally destroying the essence that makes you who you are. And thus you become ashamed of who you are as a real person. So your confidence level gets destroyed. And so then you find this overexuberance of something else, whether it's exercise, whether it's sex, whether it's money, whether it's, drugs. You find something else to escape into, because the shame is holding you so heavily, because you know who you are. So if you're not sharing your story, and that's talking about selfies and pictures. So if you're not sharing your story and who you are as a person, you are literally just, putting yourself in this cocoon of shame. The second you break free from that, the first thing you realize is that you're not alone. There's 7.2 billion people on the planet. Somebody has a story that's similar to yours. You're more respected. You're, again, the cocoon analogy, you become a beautiful butterfly. I mean, because now you're out there and people can see who you are and they can see what you are, and there's no shame, which translates, or transforms your energy, and then gives people the opportunity and the permission to connect with you. Now, what happens when you're connected with another human being? Well, if you're in a relationship, It's sensual, it's powerful, it's romantic, it's chemical, it's energetic. If you're in a business setting, if I feel more connected to you, Simon, as a person, how much more business are we going to do together? 10 times, maybe 100 times more than if we were just, douchebags that were trying to make money. We may still do business together because we're both talented people. But if we're connected, whether you live, in Bath, England, and I live in, Lake Arrowhead, California, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we have allowed each other, we've given each other the permission to connect and be authentic with each other. So now our business relationship is going to be tenfold, 100-fold of whatever would have been. Our personal relationship is going to be so much more authentic. So the power in expressing who you are and being vulnerable is monetary, it's sexual, it's, performance-based. All these different things happen at such a high level, and it's all chemical, and we won't geek out, but it creates all the right chemicals in your body to allow your brain to calm down. Very much like meditation. You're just letting your brain calm down and experience and take in everything around it, because you're not pretending, you're not hiding. And so it's a very powerful thing for people to release their core, I call it their core identity, and not being ashamed of who they are and what they've gone through in life. I mean, I gave every story in high school you could ever imagine about why I didn't have a mom and a dad. In fact, when I started coming out with my story in 2007, there were people in my high school that were like blown away. And 2 years ago, when I really started coming out with my story and got on all these podcasts and started doing stuff, I had like people that, sat next to me in classes for 3 years messaging me and being like, wait a minute, I thought you said your dad died. Or wait a minute. I mean, it got so bad. I'm like, I can't remember what lie I told you. I can't remember what story I told you about my mother or my father or why I was where I was. It was because of that shame. Now that's gone. And it's like, it's freedom. It's legitimate freedom.
Mm. I mean, I can honestly say that had I not had the stories of the stuff and the bullying and the cocaine addiction and all the stuff that had happened to me, then I it's played a huge role in my, recovery, definitely, but also in my business. And it's just been allowed me to just be who I am. And that's what I see with my clients, that the moment that they become vulnerable and share their story, it's just like a release of tension, and that doesn't have any power anymore. Let's talk about the kids. I want to go back to the kids and on this topic of the kids sharing their stories, because I watched some really powerful stories which you've got on the website, and you feel free to share the link with the guys so they can go and watch these. But what effect does it have on the kids when they're sharing their stories to other children? It must be like pretty cool for them, to actually get it out there and feel a sense of satisfaction when they're getting this feedback.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful. And the stories you're alluding to, we have this black chair in our office with a light above it, and then these kids sit there and tell their stories, and they'll wreck you. They're incredibly raw, incredibly powerful. Everything that I do is very raw, very real. If you read anything I write, I go into the darkness. I go into the dark of darkness. But we always come out with this light and this power. And so these videos do the same thing. And just the kids going through that exercise allows them to see that even with the darkness, there's light. They can move through this. That's the first step. The second step is, now, like you said, it's freedom. They're allowing themselves to tell this story and not be judged by their story. And then the third part is that they're sharing this story with other people, other children who are being impacted forever because of their bravery to tell their story. And then that leads to community. Now these children are part of a community. They feel like they've made a difference in the world, which gives them reason and gives them purpose to stay in this world. So, we talk about suicide. Suicide is an escape. That's all suicide is. It's not kids that want to die. That really needs to be understood by people who have never suffered from depression or have never had experience with suicide and always, whatever. And especially if you've been taught in a religious world that, people who commit suicide are going straight to hell. I will challenge you that they're not. And secondarily, it's not that they want to die. It's that they want an escape. And as a child, your only definition of escape is your reality and your perspective of what you understand. So they understand their life sucks, and they're also being told that heaven is amazing and that there's an afterlife, or there's a better place or whatever else. So why not go there? Why not get to that point now instead of waiting until I'm 85? So it's an escape. It's just they're looking to make a transition, a difference. By them telling their stories and impacting other lives, it gives them purpose. It gives them meaning. It gives them reason to exist on Earth, which is amazing because we want them to stay here. We want them to be impactful. We want them to be able to live their life, their journey, and experience life as it is here, and then go to the next stage, whatever they believe that is. But the crucial point is we want them here. We love them. We care about them. This gives them a very simplistic way of being a part of that. So they're difficult to put together. We've got, I think, 4 or 5 on the site. We're actually doing another one on Monday, which will be an incredibly powerful story from a youth who's been raped and molested several times, tried to commit suicide 2 or 3 times. Just an incredible human being who's now starting to see the light of life. But yeah, they're real, they're powerful, and they're incredibly beneficial for the youth to do that and release that pain.
You discussed with me how many kind of late nights that you've been having since this kind of taken off. What would you say to anyone who's like, they can't move their business forward, they can't take it to the next level? It's got to have something behind it. That's why, isn't it? It's like, if we want something enough, we'll go for it, and if it's important enough, we'll go for it.
Yeah, it's going through the brick wall. I mean, so Friday to Tuesday. Friday to Tuesday, I did 2,800 miles in my car, traveling and doing different things for the project. That's a lot of time in your car in a very short period of time. And then on Wednesday morning, I was in a meeting, an all-day meeting, and brainstorming some things and putting things together. And then yesterday, I was on calls and talking to youth and doing everything. And I was up till about 1 or 2 in the morning. Got up at 6 o'clock this morning, and I've had, you're my 3rd interview this morning. So, and I don't do that to boast anything. It's when you're on point, when you're on purpose, when you're on this direction, and you have something bigger. All of the things that are excuses, I don't have enough energy, I don't have enough resources, I don't have enough time. All those things just dissipate. They don't exist because you find a way. I mean, that's what's made human beings the rulers of the planet, if you would, right? Is that we find a way to make something happen. We want to get from New York to London. All right, well, let's do it on a boat. Okay, that's not fast enough. Let's do it in a plane. Now we're talking about super planes, and now we're talking about getting from LA to San Francisco in 45 minutes on a train. We're constantly seeing a situation, and when we have a purpose behind it, we create a solution. It's going to happen. I wear a Star Trek ring a lot of times. I'm a Trekkie, and I love science fiction. I love the possibility. But the thing about Star Trek that I love is that there are no limitations. It's showing that human beings see no limitations, and we will conquer whatever is a limiting belief by a purpose of existence. Whatever that may be. That we need a new planet. That we want to meet other people. That we want to help other people. Whatever. And when you look at what Gene created, in the 50s and 60s, it was a fairy tale. Really now, besides warp speed space travel, we're doing most everything that was in Star Trek that seemed like this fictional fairy tale. And so when we have purpose behind us, whether it's to cure cancer or whether it's to help people who go to war and lose their legs, and whether it's to create connectivity so that we can be connected all around the world, whatever it is, when there's a purpose behind it, we find solutions as human beings, and magic things happen when you're on purpose. Is community is built. You and I are now part of a community. I've got so many others that are part of the community. Now together, collectively, we're all working on purpose to make a change, to stop the suicides. Every minute a child is attempting suicide. Every 13 minutes a child is successful in that attempt. That means every 13 minutes we are losing a youth between the ages of 11 and 18. Every 13 minutes. It's ridiculous. And those numbers are rising, and they're global. This isn't a US problem. This is a global problem. And they're for different reasons, stress, neglect, abuse, malnutrition. There's all kinds of things that are causing this problem. There's no one thing. This isn't a Band-Aid solution. We literally have to create an entirely different campaign on how we're going to address these issues. But when you're on point, you're on purpose, all the limitations don't exist. They're irrelevant. They're absolutely irrelevant. My sleep is irrelevant. It's irrelevant to me.
Got it. So something I want to also touch on, which is key, is the reach that personal trainers have, not just in their skill set of transformation in body, and we talked about this, but also the impact and the amount of people that they come in contact with. I mean, that's a benefit that I think I have for this project, is I am now putting this in front of a large group of personal trainers, and so I have reach. The guys who are watching this have got reach too, but also they've got an amazing skill set. Talk about that and the importance for this project in particular, or one that they want to help out with themselves.
You know, having reach, having community, having people that are involved is so powerful, and it's so necessary, and it's something that we have to do. I'm playing single dad for the week, so this is my son.
Hey.
You say hi?
Hi.
Hello.
So I have your breakfast right there on the counter. So anyway, it's so important, and when you have that power, you have a responsibility. You know, you have something that you can do, and if you don't have that power, and you have a story, and you have something, you have a responsibility to go and find people who have that power and that gift. You know, I mean, that's what I've been doing, you know, constantly for so many different things, so much time, is finding people who could help share this message, whether it's John Lee Dumas with Entrepreneur on Fire, whether it's you, whether it's LL Cool J. It's always about that. Sorry, he's asking me a question about milk. So
I love it. Bring him in. It's fine. Bring him in with his milk. Yeah. So they have a lot of them have, you know, the capability and impact to share and spread this message if they can get over their own funk.
Yeah. And you know what's really cool, and we haven't talked a lot about the system, but we have a whole back-end system. I mean, we're in 7 countries now. I mean, a little bit about a human project. We're in 7 different countries, and this is in the last year and a half that we've been doing this. I don't even know how many children we've impacted. It's been over 50,000 youth. This year alone, we've stopped 300 plus suicides, and those are, like, we know because they're in our system, they're in our program. There could be many others that have just been impacted, like this girl that I met 2 years ago who wasn't in our system but just took the advice, and there you go. So there could be thousands of stories like that. I don't know, but we have an online system. We have a program. I mean, I came from the entrepreneurial space, the tech space, and then also I call it the juvie space, right? Like I was a bad kid. I did crazy stuff, and so we combined all of this stuff: self-help, entrepreneurialism, juvie, foster care, all the benefits of those programs. We combined them into one with the Human Project, and we had a board of psychologists tell us it's a 12-year PhD program. So I'm very proud of it. I'm very excited about it. And basically what it is it's an online learning center where these kids go in and they're fed information about how to empower themselves, how to respect themselves, how to grow themselves in every aspect of life: physical, mental, spiritual, the whole 9 yards. Really, we can't have one without the other. I like, for example, for diet, for people who are dietitians and different things, that the colon is the second brain. All of our chemicals in our body are produced in the colon. Well, if you're putting black tar, so plaque, on the sides of your colon walls, those chemicals aren't getting distributed through your bloodstream. They're not getting to your brain. So what are these kids eating? We're teaching them what to eat. We're teaching them how to exercise. We're teaching them how to, to meditate, how to gain knowledge. And then we're teaching them entrepreneurial skills, because the most powerful thing these children can learn is how to create independence in their life. The systems aren't broken. Whether you're in the UK or the United States, the systems aren't broken. They're infiltrated with youth. There's not enough people to help the youth that are being created by idiot parents. Sorry to say it, but there's just not. The people that decide that a one-night stand and not using a condom is appropriate, or the people that decide, that making babies and running away and not caring about them. There's not enough exposure, enough good people. There's just not enough. So the system isn't broken. It's just inundated. And so the whole purpose of our program is to teach these kids how to live in these environments and how to empower themselves to get out of the environment as quickly as they can, Well, nothing is more powerful than, than a currency of money, and the youth being able to create that money and then get themselves out and get themselves stable. I was self-sufficient at the age of 16. That really empowered me to do whatever the hell I wanted to do. And that's a huge part of what we do. So we have this whole back end system. These people are going in. So not only can your audience and participate in helping share the message and donating and doing things like that, we're looking for people like yourself, and you and I have talked about this, who will put together a 4-part video series, a training series for youth, and showing them how to, how to do exercises with household items, for example. I've been asking for this for a year. I need somebody who can, because these kids don't have access to a gym. They don't have access to weights. They don't have access to things like that. They have access to their backyard, their street, a tree, that's what they've got. So somebody create me a 4-part video series on how a kid can create a full body workout utilizing stuff that's, common household items or common neighborhood items or whatever else. And on top of that, do it in a way that you got to remember that these kids are depressed, and going on a walk is revolutionary for them. It's a very trying thing. And that's one of the first things we do is have kids go on walks, and then we elevate that to a run, and then we elevate that to other things. But, so there's so many ways that people can participate in what we've created. And then, the kids watch these videos, there's points. So they do the actions that the videos are talking about. They get points for doing that. Those points are then traded in for currency inside of our system. They can get t-shirts. We had some guy donate a bunch of Xboxes last year. So a bunch of our kids got Xboxes. We're putting together our summer camp program next year here in California. So the kids are going to earn, that may cost 10,000 points to come to the summer camp program. And so during the year, they'll be earning that by going through, different modules and things. So
yeah, we actually discussed, didn't we, the importance of, possibly putting even some of these youngsters through like even a personal training course or something similar. This is just the start. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff. I wanted to, we only talking, a week or so ago. And, I asked you this question, and I want you to answer this question for these guys as well. Like, what can they, aside from the video series and stuff like that, and I'm sure I can hook up and we can do something kind of bigger scale with that. But, aside from donations and stuff, what can these trainers do who've got a big impact? Can they set up something local? What's the best action that they could take watching this, being inspired by this, wanting to create a change? Something that they can share on Facebook, something that they can instantly do. Because I'm always teaching to people, don't just take the information, don't just listen. You've got to literally pause this video because it's going to be a recording, take some actionable thing. As soon as I finished the interview with you, I was posting something. I was not forgetting about it, right? It's that's why most people fail, is because they watch, they learn stuff, but they don't do any fucking stuff with it. So I want people to be inspired, but also what I want the guys to do is do something quick and easy that's not going to take them any time that they can do. It's not going to cost them anything. And then something they can do short, medium term, and something that they can visualize and go bigger with. Because a lot of the guys watching this, they haven't got anything that they're behind themselves. They haven't got anything that they're really passionate about. They may be donating to cancer research. They may be doing this here and there. They may have something that they're kind of aligned with. But I want to get behind this properly. I want everyone that follows me, if they don't have something which is purpose driven, this has given me a new sense of excitement, and these guys can do something too. So something short, something medium term, something long.
So something short is, like you said, just get on your social media walls, all of them, and, make a post, talk about it, share the link at humanproject.com, get the exposure out there, share one of the kids' stories, just do a simple share. It takes you 2 minutes, share it. Use Hootsuite, put it on all your social media channels. Use the hashtag #HumanProject. Done. Okay, there's your simple thing. Your medium thing is we have a really unique way of asking for donations. We have a t-shirt program. You basically can sign up and get a t-shirt, or you can do a 12-month subscription, and you get 12 t-shirts delivered to you. And those t-shirts are curated by a celebrity or somebody who's doing something amazing in the world. So you're going to get some kind of exclusive content from them. They're limited edition. We only print XYZ amount based on how many subscribers we have. That's how many we print. And then maybe a couple dozen after that to sell one-offs. But so that's an easy medium thing to do. You're making a donation. 84% of the price of the t-shirt goes back to us. We've got some amazing relationships, and you're also putting that t-shirt on. You're reminding yourself about, you know, what's happening. You're sharing the message, and they're not, you know, they're different quotes. They're different sayings. This month's is, I am proof that it's all okay. I'm here to be me. I'm here to live another day. It's the motto that I live by. And then that starts a conversation. You know, I can't tell you how many planes I've been on wearing my t-shirts, and the stewardess will be like, what does that mean? Or the guy sitting next to me or whatever. And I've got fun stories about that. I actually gave a talk on an airplane flying from LA to New York for 2 hours. And just because of a t-shirt, and the entire plane, you know, listened to it. So it was amazing. So, you know, you never know what that's going to opportune. Long term is, yeah, we have what we call pods, and their abilities for people to take these youth that are coming into us. Yesterday we had 4 or 5 youth that joined the program from all over the world. And, you know, we're looking for pod leaders, individuals who say, raise their hand and say, I have a story, I have a purpose, I have a gift, I want to help. And there's a lot of different technical stuff behind the pods. You know, we do make sure that you're legally able to play with children and things like that. And we do background checks, we do all that kind of stuff. And then we're building it out right now. It'll be finished in end of August, but we're building a 52-week course program that you as a pod leader will be able to, and you're working with a max of 6 youth. That's all we allow in a pod. Now, again, you can have multiple pods in one city, and then all the pods can get together and those kinds of things. But as a volunteer, you're only, you know, dealing with 6 youth, and that's on purpose because it's a matter of you really being able to connect with them. So there'll be 52 courses. So that's 1 a week where you can talk to your pod about a specific topic: bullying, sex, abuse, whatever. And you've got some material as a guideline. We don't say you have to use every aspect of it, but maybe it gives you the tools. So if you're not comfortable, you've got it. It'll have a video, a workbook, a questionnaire, and an activity that you do with your group. And that's what it's all about. I mean, we didn't get into a lot of my story, but what saved me after all the shit that I went through and 17 years of counseling and all this stuff, what ended up saving me and turning my life around was a guy who, he's now in his 80s. His name is Wade Smith. I'm looking for him. We gotta trying to find him, but he's in a different generation, so he's not on Facebook, things like that. But I think we've located where he is now. But Wade Smith bought a basketball, a $12 basketball, and played basketball with me for an hour a week, every week. Didn't ask me about my dad, didn't ask me about my problems, didn't ask me about anything. He just played basketball with me, and I love basketball, and I'm pretty good at it. And so he used that to bond with me. And then eventually I started telling him things, and he became a father figure to me, and he changed my entire life. He changed my entire existence with a $12 basketball. So these 52-week courses will teach you things like that you can do with these pods and these kids. So that's the long-term thing. And if you want to get involved in that, message me. There's an application process. There's a little bit of an expense to it because you got to pay for the kit. I mean, we're talking like, you know, a couple $100. It's nothing crazy. But you get t-shirts and things like that you can have the kids wear so they feel like they're part of a community, all those kinds of things. It's pretty, it's been a requested item from people around the world. So I'm excited about it.
Good stuff. Love it, love it, love it. And guys, it's going to help your business also. Like aligning yourself with something like this, people are going to see that you are wanting to get behind something. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I've not had anything up until now that I've really wanted to get behind, and that's okay. You know, sometimes you don't. But then all it took was for me to be in another, because I don't see Wes's posts. You know, I'm traveling a lot, right? And suddenly I started watching something, and it just took me one thing to watch to actually trigger that. Actually, do you know what? This is in complete alignment with A, my story, B, who I want to help, and I know that I can create a bigger impact. So I'm going to be getting behind it. I think you guys watching should get behind it. The 3 actions: something now, something medium term, and something bigger term. And especially if you come on board with me, at some point, I'm going to be pushing this a lot harder and helping you guys as I do more with this project. But just immediately now, I wanted to share with you guys, you know, something to help this. Anything you want to share? Because like we could spend a whole another 3 hours just on your business acumen, your psychology, and I want to do something with fitpreneurs also, but just something else which the guys can take away from this, and just in terms of kind of, if it's, whether it's, a big lesson from you of something that you've overcome, getting their head in the right place, some business thing that they can go away with that can also help with this too.
One of the things that I just find, and we hear it all the time, but I've added another aspect to it, is that we really only have two options in life. And I don't care what it is that, you do, you have two options. You can either be a victim or a hero. And we hear this all the time. Like, you can have a victim mentality that the world owes you or this or that or whatever, or you can be a hero. But the caveat, that the thing that people don't realize, and the piece that makes this work, because that's just kind of fluff. It's like, well, what does that mean? Is that every hero, and I don't care who it is or what you look at in life, every hero had to be a hero to themselves before they could change the world. And so what I would challenge everybody is to look in the mirror and find out how you're going to I don't want to use the word save, but how you're going to empower yourself inside of yourself. How are you going to be a hero to yourself and lift yourself up to that next level so that you can go do something? I couldn't have done this at 25 years old. I couldn't have done this at 28 years old. Like, I had to look myself in the mirror and say, Chapman, like, get your shit together. Like, this is what's going on. Pull myself out of, this egotistical funk that I was in. And I've done this several times in my life. I had to do it when I was 8. I had to do it when I was 16. I'm sure I did it when I was an infant, and I just don't remember it. But it's really just realizing that, yeah, we have these two options, but how do you even make the option? How do you even make the choice? Well, the choice starts with you realizing that you need to be a hero to yourself first. And once you do that, now it's like, superpowers, right? Now you're whatever you want to be. And I have an entire course, again, by request. When I started doing all this for kids, I started having adults just like knocking on my door daily saying, do you have something for adults? Like, I've heard your interviews, I've done this and done that. So I created something. It's called superhuman.life. And it's, that's it. It's one of those URLs, just superhuman.life. And it's a completely free module where I go through this entire concept of H cubed and releasing your inner demons and letting go of the victim and standing in power and taking control of your life and having clarity and all these different things. And I put it together in one day. I'm going to be really honest with everybody. I changed shirts, but other than that, it's all filmed in one day. And I did it based on one particular person that reached out to me who had been molested when they were 15. They're in their 60s now, and they've been in a wheelchair since they were 16. So isn't this interesting? Our whole pain thing, right? And they went through and they messaged me and told me their story. And that's when I finally decided at 9 o'clock in the morning, I got up, grabbed my cameras and filmed. And I filmed all of this. I wrote down a couple of things, but other than that, it was all just came through me. I'm going to be very clear about that. And anyway, this one particular woman now started walking. This isn't about like, ooh, healing hands or any of that crap. It's that the pain that she was holding from being 15 years old and stuck in a wheelchair was actually a derivative of the sexual abuse. And once she released that, her legs started having feelings again. Really weird, crazy thing. It's going to be amazing. She's actually coming to my home. I'm going to spend 3 days with her and work with her and share her story because I think it's so freaking powerful. But my point is that that's all free. That's all there. I just had Tony Robbins, one of Tony Robbins' main guys, go through the program, and now I'm going to be talking with Tony Robbins' son about some different things, and there's some cool things happening with that. So I'm really flattered about the content there, but it's all free, and it's there to help people because, again, if we're going to change the world, I need as many heroes as possible. I can't do this on my own, and so I need as many people to release their shit, as you say, as possible so that we can really make an impact on this. And I've got a pretty steep goal. I want to impact 25 million people's lives before I die. That means 25 million people have shifted from this victim to hero mentality completely, not just in like fluff, but like, they're there. They're Superman. They're Spider-Man. They're Hulk. They're Catwoman. They're, Wonder Woman. I don't care, whatever, but they're there. They're in a superhuman status, and that they can make sure that the legacy continues. And as you said, we don't know what our impact is. We don't. We have no idea. If I got hit by a bus tomorrow, I know that my impact would still be going on because of the people's lives that I've touched. And that's pretty gratifying. It gets rid of all the fears of death and life and existence. And you just stay focused on just moving forward every single day. Is that I'm not worried about, have I done enough yet? And I haven't. And don't get me wrong. I haven't done enough in my category, but I still feel like, you know, there's a lot of momentum. And it's because other people are jumping on board like yourself. And that momentum's not going to stop now. It's like this locomotive that's just going to barrel through the world. So anyway, those would be my things. And that's my resource for everybody that's free. Go check it out.
Yeah, something which, you know, I've constantly asked the question of myself, and I think everyone should ask the question of is, you know, if I was to die tomorrow, is there something still going and is in place where it's going to be impacting lives for years to come? And for most people, the answer is no. And that's the reason to get good at business, to set up systems, to build teams. Mm-hmm. You know, I was on Richard Branson's island, and, you know, he's got 300 companies. If he dies tomorrow, okay, he's got stuff, he's got a legacy, he's got Virgin Unite, he's changing lives, he's got all this stuff in place. If there's any reason to properly get good at business, if there's any proper reason to invest in yourself, is there any proper reason to share your story? It's so that if you go, that like the universe is powerful, like it's going to help you out if you help other people out, and the pain which you suffer inside completely is removed once you help other people. The great thing that personal trainers are doing is they're already helping other people, but there's the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. And this is what this training is about. And I'm so, you know what my brain's like, Wesley. It's like my brain's ticking off. You're talking video series to me. I'm thinking kids in Bali, like with like weights and stuff, filming with the guy. I've actually, like, the guy who films Tony Robbins' stuff is my video guy also. I don't know whether I don't know whether you're talking about Donnie Epstein when you were talking about the other stuff, but yeah, he's worked on me as well and stuff like that. But we're all very much in alignment with this, and I know that the guys on Periscope are still, you know, in tune with this. I know that the guys watching this hangout are going to be in tune with it, and just like I said, take one action now, one action in, you know, maybe a few days, a week, a month, and then think bigger term and actually sit down, get your ass out of the gym, strategically think about how you're going to help, and most of all, make it happen, and actually start to release some of your own blocks. And don't be ashamed of sharing the story that if you actually stop thinking about yourself would actually, you know, change other people's lives.
Exactly. I love it. I love it, man.
Cool, man. Listen, I am going to we're still broadcasting, but this is what I do so that the other guys can understand. I'm going to hang up this interview. I'm going to get this out. I'm going to blog it out. I'm going to email it out. And then we're going to schedule another interview, which is going to be for the Fitpreneurs, which gets thousands of listeners each time. Because I want to do a brand new one on touching on a bit more about the psychology stuff. Because what you were talking about then, I was like, okay, I need to expand on that for a whole nother section. And then I'm going to be moving to America. Me and my girlfriend will be coming up to see you, hang out. We'll probably do some filming or something, and then we'll start to like move this forward in a bigger pace. Because I'm so excited by it.
Man, I'm honored. I am absolutely honored, and everything happens for a reason, man. Everything we were there at the same time. It's for a bigger purpose, and we both need to go down a different journey. And here we are again, right? So
most of all, I'm actually excited for you to maybe introduce me to some of the kids, and start to, because honestly, there is some confidence that needs to be built in that area of being around kids, and just there's that whole thing, right? So I want to actually do that, and you know, people are going to have fears around doing that. Am I good enough? A big one, right? Can I, you know, so that needs to be addressed too. So I get that, you know?
Yeah. We haven't talked a lot about it, but I live with families. You know, I was in Texas a little while ago. I'm going to Virginia. You know, parents will reach out to me so we've got all different sectors, right? We don't just focus on one thing, but sometimes kids don't have parents, and sometimes they do. And the ones that have parents, and the parents just don't know what's going on, and the kids are suicidal, and they're, you know, doing drugs or whatever. You know, I go and live in those homes, and every time I get on the plane, I sit there and I think, as I'm flying to wherever I'm going, it's like, am I going to know the right thing to say? Am I going to know what I need to do? Am I going to be able to inspire? Am I going to be able to do these things? And the beauty is that every time, you know, there's an inspiration, there's a feeling that's able to come through and help these youth. But even doing it every single day is my point. I put 67,000 miles on my car last year. I don't even know how many freaking airline miles I have, but You know, I mean, even with all of that, standing on stage is doing this, it's still every day I'm wondering, am I going to say the right thing when I get on this phone call? Am I going to say the right thing when I'm sitting in front of a child who's suicidal? So it definitely is, it's okay. And I guess I say that because I want people to realize that if you have a heart to help, don't let your mind stop you because you don't feel that you have the right words or the right message or the right this or that. Sometimes it's not even the words. You know, I tell people, here's another simple action for people. If you have a feeling, the universe, energy, whatever, that somebody in your sphere, whether it's you're at the grocery store or you're at the market or you're shopping or you're hanging out, whatever, if you get some inspiration that someone in your sphere and you identify that person is not having a good day, I can literally tell you, whether it's a handshake, a hug, whatever's appropriate in the setting, to just go up to them and give them that physical affirmation of a handshake, a hug, and say, I just wanted to tell you that you're enough, that you're worth it. Those two simple words can take somebody off of a cliff, can take somebody away from drugs, can take somebody, you know, who's in an abusive relationship and give them enough power. You know, I've seen it time and time again. I just had this happen to, I had no idea. I was in a grocery store and I just had this feeling, this woman that was behind me, she was, I don't know, I just had this feeling, and I turned around and I shook her hand. I reached my hand out and I shook her hand and I introduced myself. And I said, I just wanted to let you know that you're enough and you're worth it. And I checked out my groceries, got done, and I guess she ended up putting her groceries away, and she came running and followed me and she said, why did you tell me that? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. I just did. Yeah. And she let me know she was in an abusive relationship for 20 years and that she's been trying to get out, and now she wants to get out of that relationship. So you just don't know.
I'm sure we'll be back in just a moment.
Sorry about that. Server issue. Said server issue. So anyway, do I have you back?
We've not got visual. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, my point is that simple actions, you never know, but don't, if you have a heart to help, don't let your mind stop you. That's my point. Yeah.
I was actually at Mastermind in Vegas, and we got given like $1,000 through all the people, and we weren't allowed to come back with it, and we'd actually not spent much. We had about $700 left, and one of us had an idea to just give that away to people who needed it, you know, and we just went around and gave $100 to a homeless guy, to someone who needed some help on his car, to someone who needed their groceries. I filmed the whole thing. It's on my blog. It's giving, I think it's called giving $100 bills to people who need it in Vegas. And the sense of satisfaction by the end of that, I was buzzing like I was on some kind of high. It was crazy, you know,
like cocaine on steroids.
Yeah, it was like, and I think a big lesson for that is, you know, I don't want to go too much. I mean, I don't want to go too much into like power of intention and spirituality and all this stuff. But, you know, you get those urges and those things to say something, do something. And what stops us is the fear. What stops us is ourself, is our own shit, basically, where actually you think about, you want to say something and it's like, no, I'll be stupid, or I'll, you know, someone will say something to me. Once you start to get over that and start to use your instinct and gut and just remove the fear, once the fear is gone, you're led into places that you would never normally go, you know, and you start to understand, you know, Wayne Dyer's Power of Intention, fantastic book that teaches that. And once you get more spiritual and you know, A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle teaches about all that conscious level of consciousness. I mean, some people will be listening to this and won't even understand what it is, and they'll be going woo woo. When you get to a bit older and stuff, like me, a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have been the same thing. Once you start to understand it and your consciousness level changes and you start to remove all the blocks and all of this stuff, then all of this actually makes a lot more sense, and actually you can have a bigger impact.
Exactly. Yeah, I just interviewed Jack Canfield and was talking to him, and I told him, you know, 4 years ago, I thought all these self-help guys were a bunch of hippies, you know, that were on stage, you know, telling you to think positive. And so, yeah, it does. There's a balance, you know, balance in all things, but you're exactly right. You're exactly right. So I love it.
Cool, man. Take it easy. I will jump off and let's schedule the Fitpreneurs. Get it in the diary. When you're doing anything, you've always got to just get it in the diary, make the phone call, do the introduction. So we will set a time to do the next interview immediately when we finish this, so we don't forget it. Because if we do forget it, then there's lives that aren't going to be changed. Right, I'm done.
Got it, man. All right, we'll talk in a second.
Take it easy. Bye.